Whoa, you added that.
No, that was there.
Is that true?
That's there. I swear. Yeah. Happy hour to you, my dentist friend.
Well, yeah. And the sun is shining bright.
Looks lovely and bright in your office.
Yard. It's approaching 60 degrees out.
What? Didn't it just snow like a bunch?
Yes. And it rained a bunch. And now green stuff that wants to be green is saying, okay, we know you mean it this time. Here we come.
Uh-huh.
And while there could be a little scattered snow flurry in the early morning, anytime now, we're done with accumulation and there's no surprises known. And that also means that the steelhead are going to start to run.
The cycle of the seasons.
Upcoming episodes, I'll cover my next trips. Nothing to report now, of course, except the big wait. I'm not able to fish again until probably later next week.
Are you going to fish again in Michigan?
I'm going to fish again in Michigan and wishing that I caught some.
Excellent. Good setup there. So, yeah, like we're rounding the bend towards this ye olde springtime.
Yes.
Where your dogwoods smell as they do, and
yeah, we'll have to dig into that a little bit or explore that a little deeper.
Yes, well, you get your snout right up on that flower and report back.
So it's nice, it's seems the winters are longer. I told you about my plan to start ice fishing, and that will be
when is that, in June?
It ends in June. No, it's got a middle of the winter season. It ends sooner, long before spring, and begins long after winter starts because the ice has to be 4 inches thick.
So you're planning that for
next year, 2022, the winter of 2022.
Or 2023.
Oh yeah, winter 2022/2203.
Yeah, winter.
Yeah.
Winters are so hard to.
What year are we in? 2021, 2023, right?
I think it's still 2020.
Yeah.
Feels like it.
No. No.
Yes.
So things are good, Doing. I have a sports car story. Appreciate this.
Oh well. Do you want to go into that, or do you want to go into why you were late to our recording session today?
No, let's go. Forget about why I was late. I don't even know I can remember. But that's a long, boring story. This one is shorter and equally as boring.
Fast like a sports car.
So my little 74 Mercedes, as you know, from episode 125
all of our listeners are
or whatever,
nodding their heads.
I found a wonderful warehouse to store it in, 46 miles from here in Dowagiac, Michigan, home of the
Dowagiac
Wandering Minnow Bar and Saloon, which I've sent you pictures of the T-shirts, I'm sure, in Dowagiac. So I went to go get my sports car, had my tools to hook the battery back up, had my wife drive me in, got there, took the hood off the car, uncovered it, opened the hood, got in, hooked up the battery, opened the door. Best news was the light went on in the car when the door opened, so meant power was connected, put the key in the ignition and turned it, and it went, and just when it was ready to start, it went, and there was a little puff of blue smoke from the corner under the hood,
blue smoke is bad smoke.
Underneath the battery. And so I quickly did an obvious diagnosis.
You had a battery fart?
Yes. Well, below the battery. Well, I may be at the lower reaches of the battery's bowels, so it could be considered.
That's where the farts come from.
But it could have been a fuse, but that wouldn't create blue smoke. So as I'm looking, we got our two telephone lights blaring in the inside of the hood of my car, and it says, "Look like these wires are bared, like maybe something's been chewing it." Right. Said the owner of the warehouse where the car was stored for $270, where one doesn't expect mice to get into the belly of the car and chew the wires, which happened there. And it went, and that was a couple of bare wires touched each other and shorted out the car, which would mean that it could have blown a fuse, but without repair, it would just happen again and again, or maybe start a little fire. And I have set this car on fire before. I don't ever want to do that again. The brake went on fire in a car with a full tank of gasoline.
Well, that's not advisable.
Not what?
Yeah, it's not advisable.
No.
I there's a podcaster that I listen to that tells this story about how he was renting someplace and there was this big fucking rat that came into his apartment, and he complained to the landlord, and the landlord said, "I didn't make the rat. God made the rat." Like, the fact that there's a rat in your apartment is not my problem. That's
That's a true story.
Take it up with a higher power.
Is that a true story? You setting up for a punchline?
No, that's a true story. That is the punchline. God made the rat. So if a rodent is chewing through your wires, how is that really the responsibility of the?
I'm sure if I read the contract, which I have in front of me right here.
I see.
The contract signed.
Super fully worked.
I will be looking at the fine print, but I'm sure what it says is something like, if mice get into your fucking car, that's not our problem. You shouldn't be storing it in a warehouse if you're worried about it. It probably says that in the policy.
But if you're going to store your car, store it with a cat as well, right?
That's not a bad idea. But the thing is, the undercarriage access to the engine is available in every car that's made so that a mouse could enter it. So if the building has mice, it's a real problem. Now they're ending the rental. There's no more warehouse rental for cars beginning now. So this is my last bit. But I'm at the guy's mercy. He's got my car. My contract says it's expired. And he's in his golf cart where he drove me to the middle of this warehouse where my car is stowed with 11 other cars.
Strangely, his golf cart hasn't been chewed apart.
Well, he's on the move with that. He's active with that. It's not like my car sitting there for months at a time. But anyway, rodents and vermin love the taste and the feel of hard plastic on their fucking teeth.
Don't we all?
Raccoons eat gas cans, plastic gas cans, tires of wagons, and
I love chewing on a good
lawnmower
hose.
Wagon tires. They'll eat right through them.
Yeah,
and they'll eat through the wood to get to it, and they'll sit there and they'll chew. And they're not eating it to swallow it. If you were to put a camera on them, they'd be chewing and they'd be saying, "Oh, that tastes good. Oh no, until the tires have gone."
Yeah,
eat through of motherfucking belts that make engines go. But anyway, I'm at his mercy.
I've got a half a tire here in my office that I chew on when I'm doing projects.
Chew on this tire, big boy. But anyway, so I'm like,
what they need is they need some cats there patrolling.
Well, that would actually be quite a deterrent, but then you do have to manage the cat shit. But at any rate, that would notwithstanding, there I am, and he's in his golf cart. He's got an appointment. He's a busy man. He is the owner of this warehouse, and he's got everything rented out, and it takes up 2 full city square blocks. He's got to have a golf cart to get from one end to the other. So unless you want to jump in your car and drive around the corner. So anyway, he's a busy man. So I'm like, well, let me try this. And I hooked up a power pack to make sure that it wasn't the battery, that somehow the battery blew. And that, of course, didn't do a thing. And so that tested out. And I said, well, it's a spark below here. I don't have the tools to do it. I'm not a mechanic. Time's up here. Got to go. Put a cover back on it and left. Went back to the car. My wife's like, where's your car? I'm like, she don't like this car. She don't like this car.
I mean, that's obvious. That was obvious from the first time you said that you had
she was a good sport about it, and then we drove home. And so now, part 2, I've got part 2, but any questions so far?
She was a good sport about it, and then we drove home is like the ending of all of our stories. Yeah. I mean, mouse. First of all, outside of the U.S., there's not this culture of personal storage. Like in the U.S., you guys purchase so much crap that you end up like you can't fit it all in your house, and then there's this concept of well, fine, I'll go and pay. Like rather than throw this shit away, I'd rather pay for it to go be in some storage location, and I don't know. In Europe, those places like they don't do that. It's
they don't have any place to store stuff.
Well, it's not. I don't know.
Or it's just not in the culture, so they don't.
Well, I mean, for sure, we here in Spain we have like your uncle's barn that no longer has any livestock in it, and if you wanted to, you could put all of your excess, the clothes for your kids when they were babies and stuff. You could throw them in there, and they could be there and rotting until they end up getting thrown away. Like that's a thing that happens. But there's not this whole industry of, I have all of this shit that I think that I might possibly need. I don't know. I recently read a book about decluttering and about how you don't.
Read a whole book about it?
Yeah, and I threw it away. Yeah.
No, you meant you passed it on. You wouldn't throw it away. That's not part of an efficient.
It was digital.
Decluttering plan.
So it's this book called "It's All Too Much" by Peter Walsh, and he goes through he has been a guru for helping Americans get who feel so burdened by all of their shit that they can't live anymore.
Yeah.
And I think we can all sympathize with that, because we all have stuff in our house that if someone really asked you, why do you have that? You'd be like, well, I don't know. And, I might need that at some point, or that particular thing buried deep in a drawer was important to me once. And he sort of walks you through all the reasons why you should look at the value of a thing is one thing. Like, say you paid $50 for this shirt that you've worn once, like 5 years ago. But you need to compare that value with the cost of fucking having it in your life. And it makes a very compelling case for being very, very, very critical, and just going through your house and making pretty quick decisions about, I haven't used this in 4 years. If I needed it again, it would cost me $10 to buy a new one. Get rid of it.
So let me pose a situation to you that counters that.
And there are many
in some aspects, and of course it isn't part of the argument in the first place. But in my situation, I have room on my property and have 2 workshops, an outside workshop where all my wood and carpentry and big cutting filthy saws are, and then in the basement of the house another workshop where all my screws and bolts and stuff are, and all my fishing gear.
Yep, screws and bolts.
Yes. So with the screws and bolts in the basement, for example, I have ample cabinet space and drawer space to put things. So if you open one drawer, there'd be a couple of doorknobs in there. If you open another drawer, blah, blah, blah. Now, the other day, to prove the point, of course, so I broke a doorknob in my house. I went downstairs. I opened the doorknob drawer.
How angry were you when you broke a doorknob?
Pardon me?
How angry were you when you broke a doorknob?
I wasn't angry at all. I was mild-mannered. It was just time. In fact,
You just wanted to get through the door, and the doorknob was like...
My sister-in-law did it, and I don't know how. And it didn't matter to me. I forgave her instantly. Uh-huh. And the good news was I had one downstairs, and the good news was 20 minutes later, I had a new working doorknob on my house.
Sure.
So that's not clutter.
No, it isn't. If you have space for it, and when you walk into that workshop or whatever, and it's not piled fucking to the rooftops with shit that you think that you might need, yeah, or cluttered.
It can't be cluttered,
right? So that's a fine way, but there are so many people that live lives where, like the place where I keep all of my computer cables is like it's not super orderly, but it's not like in my way. It's not bothering me. But also, I'm not going to need a FireWire cable that they don't even make computers that like support that technology anymore. That can all be set free, and but also, I don't know. We have aging children, and they have lots of little toys that they played with a whole bunch when they were 4 and 5 and 6. That now that they're almost 9 and 13, don't touch anymore. And yet we still have a whole fucking drawer full of those toys in our living room, and that's an example of something that can go away. Yeah. Or clothes that that you haven't worn in 10 years.
Yeah, I'll tell you a painful experience on that point. I may have mentioned it in a previous episode under a different topic, but what happens with people is they kind of start to collect stuff. They see stuff they like, and they say, "Oh, I've like in the case one of my cases, it's knives." And if I find a nice knife and I like it, and I put them in different places where it's safe to keep them.
Okay, Dexter.
A dozen of them. So those are small and they're not cluttering anywhere.
You've got 7 within arm's reach right now at your desk.
No, I have. If I were to guess, 4. I make sure that's true no matter where I sit in the house.
If someone were to run into your office right now, you could stab them.
No, I'd use my Killian's beer bottle over their head.
Okay.
I wouldn't know. It'd be too much of a bar fight.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
And I'd just reach over with my left hand like this, as you can see in the camera.
And why would you want to get your knife dirty? When you can just break a beer bottle.
Well, of course, and then right. And then you have a broken beer bottle in your hand, which makes for the second weapon.
Right, exactly.
Did you use it to bludgeon your assailant? Now you can use it to stab them if need be in the throat near the jugular, and that's the end of it. If they persist.
Hey, man, is that why they call it Killian's?
Oh, mark in your notes.
20-something minutes. Yep. Yeah.
Funny Quip 1, episode 149.
Quip number 1.
Is that true?
The episode number? Yes. Yes.
How's the money rolling in?
Well, so speaking of your gesture, I was gonna say that anyone that wanted to watch Dennis's eloquent mimicking of attacking someone from behind, they was attacking him from behind, could go to patreon.com/happy.
Really? Is that true?
Yep.
I thought you said that. Did you send me something?
Get this video
that I gave you legal permission to use my face, or what do you call it? My countenance, my
you don't
my
have
personage, my image.
Yes.
My
it was
image.
it was all in the fine print. Yes.
Fine print. I wonder why you send me these emails in 5 font. Jeramond 5 font.
They're really in 7. They're really in 7-point font, but you're old, so when you get to a certain age, everything looks like fine print. Am I right?
No, you're wrong. I wear spectacles to correct that problem. It isn't that it seems to be in a font that's too small. Doesn't matter what font it is, it's blurry. It doesn't matter whether it's big or small. If it's a certain distance away, it's blurry.
Well.
And I told you about the excitement of my eye doctor. Said, "Oh, I have your test results here." He said, "This is amazing. You are textbook. You are textbook. Losing your vision at exactly the rate that is projected by individuals in your age range."
Congratulations!
Congratulations! You're right at an average rate.
You're right at the top of the bell curve.
I said to him, I said something.
Thanks, Doc.
I said,
fuck off.
I said to him, I said, and so you're saying this in such a way that makes me think that you think somehow this is good news. Why are you so overjoyed at
He's never seen an average dude before.
Never seen.
Everyone's always a little bit better, a little bit worse than the average dude.
Ask me if I'm like from Columbus, Ohio, which, as you know, is the most average American city in the United States. Columbus, Ohio.
Well,
it's true.
That's just me.
That's where everybody goes, because that's where the highest percentage of people that are interviewed seem more or less like the majority of people in the country.
Wow.
Yes.
That reminds me, my smart ass kid the other day told me that he said he hears all this stuff from YouTube. He says, "Did you know that the most boring person in the world doesn't exist?" And I said, "What?" Which was obviously the answer he was going for. He said, "Because if he was the most boring person, that would make him interesting." It's like,
whoa, man, heavy dude.
Yeah. It's like, whoa.
You ought to put that whole story as the subtitle of the episode.
It's like, pass whatever you're smoking, son. Jesus.
Little subtitle. Hey, so I got it. Before I forget this, I was doing some channel surfing, looking for something or other, and keeping up with Super Pump, which I don't know if you picked up on that yet, and keeping up with the Lakers
documentary.
Showtime kind of show, which I really just love. Oh my God. But I found into a fascinating docudrama about Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys. And his younger self was played by Rick Dano, and who you know from There Will Be Blood, among other things, the outrageous Daniel Day-Lewis pick. Just outrageous. One of the most violent and excruciatingly, brilliantly done westerns I have ever seen in my life. This got to get on your list somewhere.
I don't know Rick Dano.
Rick Dano.
He's a good-looking bloke, though.
Huh?
Well, I don't know. There's several Rick Danos. IMDb. Yeah. Okay.
And anyway, I lost my train of thought. Where was I?
I don't know. You were watching some Lakers, and then you went to Westerns, and
Rick
Dano.
But the thread of thought before that was I don't know what, but it had to do with Rick Dano. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, I know what it was. I fell into this docudrama where Rick Dano played Brian Wilson in his younger years.
Yep.
And strangely enough, he was played by John Cusack, as the older Brian Wilson. And what's remarkable about it is how little those two men look alike, and how jarring it was, and how particularly the second time I saw it, how their physical continence didn't really matter, because each of those two actors completely captured the spirit and the torture of Brian Wilson. and so it was interesting to see how that transformation that didn't look the same physically. I mean, certainly people look differently as they get older, but if you were to do an aging photo of Rick Dano, it wouldn't look like John Cusack.
What the hell are you talking about? John Cusack hasn't been in anything for...
John Cusack hasn't been in anything for years, I think, and I'm not exactly sure why. And he was Academy Award nomination good, in my view. It was stunning. Anyway, you put that on your list too.
Love and Mercy.
Yes, and it ended with
from 2014.
Brian Wilson and his band doing 2 songs up from their recent tour. In
the 60s, Beach Boys leader Brian Wilson struggles with emerging psychosis as he attempts to craft an avant-garde pop masterpiece. In the 1980s, he's a broken, confused man under a 24-hour watch of a shady therapist.
And the shady therapist, the antagonist, is played by none other the star of Billions, whom you know well.
Paul Giamatti.
And he nails it so...
Okay, Paul Dano. You were saying something
Paul
else.
Dano. What was I saying? Rick Dano.
Yeah, you were saying something else that's...
No, I was saying Rick Dano.
Yeah,
okay. It's a guy who... My wife...
Different guy.
Pall Dano.
Okay, well, it's a good thing we have some fact checking here. Right? I see the guy. I don't know him from anything.
But you see his picture.
I see his picture. Yes.
Yeah. So compare that to John Cusack, and that's my point.
Yes.
I'm glad you did some instant research to catch up on the conversation.
Somebody has to fact check your bullshit.
Somebody has to. Yes. Somebody has to do it
in real time. This is real time.
Somebody on the podcast has to do what they're told.
Not like I could have just let you ramble on. And
you do that all the time. I mean to ask you, in fact, at the conclusion of last week's episode, I was telling a story, and when I was done with it, you looked at me and you said, the last 15 minutes of what you've been talking about has already been so, and I thought later, well, did you do it because you were instantly editing me, or because our time had run out on Zoomcaster or whatever it's called, Zencaster? I got to put my glasses on to see the name of the program. Zencaster.
When I was editing that comment of mine cracked me up so much.
I'm glad you thought it was funny. I thought, well, it's okay from now on.
You'd been going on and on about how like some guy was mean to you in a bar and
he didn't
let you play your harmonica.
He was rude. My brother appreciated the story. I won't tell you the story. I'll tell him.
Good.
At least he appreciates my stories, unlike you.
So I had an incident today. Well, this whole past week, where my wife had been complaining that
Is this a joke?
No, I mean lots of jokes start off with.
You're starting is just like the jokes you tell.
Right. No, my wife has been complaining that my closet. We have this built-in closet in our bedroom. She's been saying that it smells like mold, and it stinks. And I don't smell as well as she does. I mean, I don't smell as good as she does or as well as she does. And she complained about this a year ago, and we called our home insurance, and they came over and they were like, "Man, I don't see what's wrong here. Like the back of my closet wall connects with with the bathroom upstairs. It's not an ensuite bathroom, but it's the bathroom next to the master bedroom, and
there's the source."
Right. And so we had people come over and they were like, well, there's this radiator here. Does the radiator, do you lose pressure in your radiator water system? And we said, no. And they were like, well, this is weird. And a year ago they said, well, I think it was super sexist. I was here when the guy came over and he said, well, I think your wife mops this floor with too much water and it like seeps through into the cracks between the wall and the floor. And and of course she was not amused by that. And anyway, so like then a year later, like we call them back up and she's really insistent, and they come over and they have these little devices that they can put up against the wall, and it will tell them how like saturated with water a particular section of the wall is.
A water density monitor.
Yeah, there's a special word for it.
Water absorption density assessment tool.
Sure, let's go with that.
What is the
water absorption density? What that? Yeah. So they put their wet at the wall, and they and they concluded, yeah, this wall is wet. Like duh. But like you can't necessarily tell just by touching a wall if it's wet or if it's just cold, right?
Well, no, that's
but
not
this tool,
true. Depending on what it's made out of, is it plaster, mortar and plaster?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it isn't
So-
going to swell much. So the meter may be measuring the relative moisture of the cavity as opposed to the actual absorption level.
And there's got to be some like electrical conductivity sensing as well. I don't know exactly how the wet at
moisture.
works.
It measures moisture, whether it's embedded in the board or not, as immaterial. The moisture oftentimes is more prevalent on the outside wall, and there's moisture that's trying to absorb through the plaster and shit, but doesn't get there. So because
but also
the plaster's
like
actual, does keep some of the water out.
But also on the inside of the closet, before you get to the wall, there was one of these thin sheets of this faux wood that like you put at the back of a closet, right?
Paneling.
Yeah, paneling, sure. And
faux wood. Wait
faux wood.
Let's stop right here.
Let's
stop right here.
Look, we've all had faux wood. Am I
you're
right?
referring to the thing that everyone in the world calls a paneling as what? Faux what? Faux wall? Faux
Wood.
Faux wood. FAUXWOOD.
Yes.
Faux wood. Wow.
I mean,
You're different. You as my friend Robbie Burns used to say, you're a doozy.
sometimes you get
you're a doozy.
sometimes you get excited and it's just faux wood.
Look up the word doozy on your little
I know what doozy
computer
means.
screen. Where'd that word come from? That's a real doozy.
Hold on, I'm telling a story here.
Oh.
We'll come back to doozy.
So yeah, that's right. The faux wood in the back of your closet.
Yeah. So anywho, where finally the
Here we go again. Anywho, go ahead.
Finally, the insurance guy admits, yes, this wall is wet somehow. And so it's the wall that's shared with my closet and the bathroom. And the bathroom is tiled, right?
Yes.
And so,
No fun.
Fun. So we don't want to attack the leak from the bathroom side. We want to attack it from the closet side. So I empty all of my clothes out of my closet, and they come and they take away the faux wood, or the paneling, as some may call it. And they start breaking apart the wall. They're just searching for wherever this water is coming from. And indeed,
Dusty.
and noisy. And anyway, they come across, for some reason.
They put plastic up to block the dust coming out of the room.
Nah.
No.
Nah.
The dust went throughout your home.
My master bedroom, but
subpar.
But wasn't,
they kept it in the bedroom.
Yeah, it was in the bedroom, and it wasn't like it. The pieces that fell fell to the floor. They could have protected the floor better, but it's also the floor inside the closet where most of it actually fell.
Yeah.
So not that big a deal. But anyway, they started breaking through this wall that turned out to be brick on the inside, and they discovered this pipe that was going through the wall, like at eye or chest level. For some reason, it didn't need to be at that level, but they found that there was this pipe that was made of copper, this particular kind of copper that in Spain they call it sweet copper.
Sweet like candy?
Cobre dulce, yeah. But dulce is also what they call like fresh water. So I don't know. And the plumber guy that was there said, yeah, this kind of copper after 25 years, it sort of becomes porous and is going to leak.
Because it's not as good a copper as what I'm used to.
Because it's cheap copper, I guess. So anyway, he identified where the leak was and had to go back to his warehouse to come and get a piece to patch it up. And he patched it up, but left this whole sort of open space where he had exposed where the pipe was,
which you want access to.
Well,
you should put a panel there that you can screw in and screw out. You shouldn't build plaster wall over it, or you should always make it easy to get at that plumbing in the future, as long as you're at it.
Okay, this is interesting. This is very, very interesting. That's what the plumber said. The plumber, after spending an hour and a half breaking through the wall to get to the pipe, said, look, if you're just going to put this panel up again, I wouldn't plaster over all of this pipe again. And
screw it in, don't nail it in.
Right. And so anyway, my wife does not agree with you at all.
What?
Well,
That's ridiculous. That's irrelevant. Her opinion doesn't count.
Okay, I did not say that. Dennis said that, and
Because she's wrong.
like it made sense to me. But anyway,
Did you bend? Did you bend?
Did I say yes, dear?
Yes.
Don't we all?
No.
Okay.
No.
Look, I don't know anything about this stuff.
Not all the time.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know anything about this stuff. I don't really care.
You don't care?
Look,
It added extra cost, extra material, extra work.
No. This is in theory. The insurance is paying to fix this.
Let me tell you that from a plumber's perspective and a homeowner's perspective, particularly since I do some of the work myself, is that one of the problems of fixing plumbing is access. And if people who are building a house don't provide the access, which many of them do, through a panel that can be unscrewed on the, like in the house that we have in town here, the bathroom in the first floor shares a wall with the library room. So in order to get at the plumbing, of course, just like you say, we didn't go through the tile. We took the tongue and groove pine out of the library room,
right,
and then cut the plaster out with a big saw. And I said, when this goes back up, don't replace the plaster, just put the wood on, so that if anybody ever needs to get at this, they're not going to have to make the mess we made. And that's what they did. And so
is there no benefit gained by
none?
Hold on by
plastering it up? None.
By covering the pipes so that I don't know. Okay.
Listen, here's the thing we need to understand about pipes and concrete walls and everything that is hidden in our house, right? Everything has to breathe, just like you do. And the less that if you have a basement wall that's built out of huge stones and mortar and concrete in between the stones to hold them up, and you don't paint it, it will breathe because there's a porousness to the concrete, not to the stone. But as soon as you put paint over the top of it, that moisture has no place to breathe. It cannot breathe. It's no place to go. So what it does over time is it crumbles out and destroys the paint. And whenever veneer you decided to make it look better, instead of, here's my question, what the fuck is wrong with the look of stone and concrete? Why does it have to be painted gray in this case, or white or whatever? And once you paint it, and once you do shit with it, and it starts to crumble, you've got to keep it up. So
back to my story.
Okay.
That was a lovely interlude, and I agree with all of it.
You didn't know. I'm not feeling the love. But I feel like
No, look. I don't think you should paint wood and concrete.
I heard this when I was talking, but I'm not altogether.
No, you're doing that sound effect now. That was not there. So they took apart one of our. So it's three closets together. There's a 2-door closet that opens like this, and then there's the 1-door closet, and then there's another 2-door closet. And they took apart my 2-door closet, and the whole back wall was all covered in mold and wet and shit.
Ugh.
And
does that answer your question as to why you don't want to put the stuff in there again?
Well, they found the leak. They claim to have found the leak, and clearly we have to put the paneling back on. But it's also is very clear to us that whatever shit was happening behind the paneling that we took off
is fixed.
Hopefully, but also it's very clear that the paneling of the next closet over also needs to be taken off to let it dry underneath to.
Well, because it's moldy too, probably.
Right, exactly. So anyway,
so let me tell you the thing in general is that if you've got studs, and in between the studs you have access to your plumbing, then the application of a certain kind of paneling ensures not only access, but a very firm wall that in fact is just as firm as if it were plastered. And the stuff that I've used is a paneling that's a 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch thick paneling that looks like wood. When you say faux wood and I say paneling, make a distinction though that some paneling is absolutely faux wood in its design, meaning that it looks like barn wood, as the case of this stuff is. And it's realistic, particularly when you paint it, and it looks like, not that you want to do that inside your closet, but my only point is that the thickness of the paneling ensures not only that you've got a firm wall, which is everyone's point, I'm sure part of what your better half is considering here.
No, it's not about that. It's more about, she's more concerned about the isolating the pipe away from.
What?
I don't know. There's the insurance guys are implying that because the wall was cold because of the water, there was condensation from the air that is what caused the mold.
No, what caused the mold was there was no way for that moisture to move out of the
right. Exactly.
the area.
Exactly. I agree
why-
completely. But they keep using the word condensation, which seems condescending to me.
But listen to this. What I've done on walls that need to breathe because they're concrete or whatever is that instead of using just regular old paneling, I use paneling that is punched with a million holes. It's called pegboard.
Right.
And that pegboard allows everything behind it to breathe. And it also has the incredibly extra added benefit of being a repository for any number of hooks and shelving that just snaps into place by using those peg holes, which creates a wonderful opportunity to rethink parts of your closet. If in the back of your closet, for example, you've got clothes that are hanging down and there's room, above or below the current rack, we'll move them down and above it. Use the pegboard, put in your shelves, a little place for your ties, place for your cufflinks.
All my ties, yes.
Where you hang.
I have a whole separate closet for my ties.
French berets, and Portuguese and Spanish berets as well, I'm sure.
No, so anyway, today we had the insurance guy come over again, and we wanted them to remove the panel from the second side,
of course,
part so that it could breathe and dry out. And they told us over the phone the other day that it was going to take 2 months for the wall to dry out properly.
They're misunderstanding. The wall, in fact, will never dry out, quote unquote, properly.
Right. I mean, yeah, forever. Yeah, for sure. Of course.
If the moisture is in the mortar and the plaster, the destruction will be different. Instead of wet and destroyed, it'll be dry and destroyed, but it will be crumbled. And that's the problem with that.
But anyway, today we had this sort of confrontation with them.
Oh.
Where because this is the people from the insurance company, and they want to do the least fucking possible work possible, because that's what their annual bonuses are based on how often they can say no. And so we were telling them, look, clearly the damage from this leaking pipe, which is covered by our insurance, has also made the wall behind this other panel wet, and so we need to take off that other panel to dry it out. And they were very, very condescending, as in you fucking idiots don't know what you're talking about. But we stood up for ourselves, and they kept talking about how mold and spores and stuff work. And my wife is a veterinarian and knows all about biology, and she pulled out some water actualization. I don't know, some water activity is the word. Knowledge about, well, actually, if the water activity is below 7. But they didn't want to do anything. And finally, after we had this confrontation with raised voices and implications that you people don't know what you're talking about, on both sides, and it was really one of the more ugly conversations I've had in years, where talking with someone and having them tell me that I'm an idiot. And
no, he didn't say that. He called it idioto.
The word was not used, but he said, "Look, he started talking about fungal spores and stuff, and I said something like, yeah, we know about biology." And he was like, well, you might know about biology, but I know about what the fuck I'm talking about when you don't. And it was very.
But you won the day.
It got heated, but in the end, they said, "Look, fine, we'll take away this other panel and we'll let it dry, and then we'll put it all back." But it was frustrating to have to fight to.
Yeah, certainly. Well, and you held your own, and you held your own partly because your wife did some good research, as you say, and this is why it's so surprising to me to hear her think that somehow you need to reapply plaster and close in an area that obviously has to breathe. It has to breathe. Wood would be better. Wood would be better. The other thing you can do is put wood in there. Tongue and groove pine, easy enough to take out. Screw it in instead of nailing it in. And when you're showing your house and you say, "Well, I lived here for 47 days, and one of the things that came in handy a couple of times is you go in that closet in there, and those panels come off. And there you got all your plumbing for your bathrooms. There's no mess. There's no fuss. It's quite a feature, adding to the value of the property.
Yeah, I suggested that, and
not particularly strongly worded. I could tell from your kind of looking down at your shoes right now.
I said, look, I'm just saying.
You folded.
Yes, dear. Yes, dear. We can go ahead and put plastic back up. I don't care whether there's condensation and the pipes can't breathe. It's worth it to have peace with you in our home.
More or less, yes. I'd rather have more work for the future person coming to fix this than work for me now.
That's too funny. You're funny. You're funny.
Hey, man, it's life.
Oh, so what else? So
I recommended this TV show to you, but you can't see it.
Yeah,
apparently.
I don't know what the deal is with that, but I did a search in the two channels, thinking, well, maybe he meant Showtime, and it wasn't. It wasn't available anywhere. And the only thing I can tell you is that my access is bad, or your information's wrong. But it's because it's been too soon for it to have been on and is over.
Right. So it was released apparently in Australia at the beginning of the year. And it took a while. It took a while to get to the U.S. in March, and then it just now debuted here in Spain.
And it came over my newsfeed about a month ago, so it makes me think that.
Okay.
But anyway, having it on my newsfeed is a general communication, as opposed to actually seeing it on my cable.
Right. But anyway, it's this show called The Tourist, and it's one
the
of
accidental tourist I found, John Hurt, who passed away. Let's do a shout out to John.
Okay.
You know John Hurt.
I know John Hurt. He's not hurting anymore.
The Big Chill.
So anyway, as I was saying, it's this show called The Tourist, and
right.
The premise is there's this guy that has amnesia in the outback in Australia, and has to sort of piece together who he was or whatever. And it's this sort of I love this genre where the protagonist is sort of as clueless as the viewer. Where you're sort of following along as they're figuring out what the fuck is going on in the world. But I don't know. I've liked the first 2.5 episodes. So,
well, I'll look for it.
I recommend to those that can see it.
In fact, there's a movie. One of our favorite actors is done a movie.
One of our favorite actors.
And the movie is called A Ghost Story. And the two stars from Ain't Them Body Saints, Casey Affleck, and the actress's name is
Rooney Mara.
Yes, Rooney Mara. So after they shot Them Bodies Ain't Saints, the same director took them over to Texas, and on a incredibly tight little budget, filmed a story about a couple where the man character, who we only know as a man, Casey Affleck, dies and becomes a ghost. And the thing that you know from the poster of the movie, let alone the trailer, is that the way they depict him as a ghost is his body covered in a sheet.
Or with something covered in a sheet.
Pardon me?
Not necessarily his body.
Right. Correct. Casey Affleck's being.
His being.
His being is under the sheet. And I've read all sorts of stuff about it in terms of what they're, it's very fascinating. I want you to take a look at it as a bit of homework, knowing that there's some news info out there about what it was like to direct Casey Affleck under a sheet for almost the entire movie.
Hold on, I don't want to know any more than that. I want to see it, and then we'll talk about that. What it's like to direct someone under a sheet, because what an interesting.
And let me predict this. Let me just predict this. A scale of 1 to 10. 10 being that you're raving crazy. That's the best movie of modern man. This is going to be in the higher
2,
the higher 8ish, 9ish area. You're going to like this much when you ponder it. It's a pondering kind of movie, and it's.
Oh, I love pondering movies.
Well, it isn't rushed, which we talked about before. You like a little bit. I think you get bored a little soon. It's your lower attention span that's known in lower species of nearly every beast on Earth.
So the top cast, the characters that are played are doctor, little boy, man in wheelchair, gentleman caller, mover, making out, magician, and prognosticator.
Prognosticator. Know
And just
this.
wants to dance.
Know this.
And spirit girl.
Prognosticator is the key to the entire movie. When he speaks, listen carefully.
I mean, that's what I've been telling you this whole fucking podcast, but
The whole series?
I am the prognosticator. When I speak, you listen.
I am the prognosticator. When I speak, you must listen.
Prognostication.
Yeah. So what else was I? Here it is.
Here it is. Bring us
How
home.
much did we both love the funniest president to ever be in the White House?
Fucking love that video.
Fucking kill it at the fucking, and his writers are so good. He is such a good delivery at the 2-year reunion of the passing of the ACA.
It's only
two or whatever.
Hello, 6, 8.
6 years.
Yeah.
6
Remember, we had a doofus in the meantime.
Yes, that's right. And even the one that the spoiler alert is, it's gone viral, is when he was talking about how hard it was to pass it and the fact that they passed it.
Yeah.
The quote that I think we've talked about, where Biden leaned over to him and said to him, "This is a big fucking deal," and the mic picked it up.
Yes.
And it was this whole controversy. And Obama, in his speech, says,
Fucking
and
reference.
I got to tell you, when we got it done, as one very famous man said,
A
it
famous
was
American.
a big deal. It was so funny.
And then Joe went and like Catholic crossed himself.
Oh God, did he?
Yes.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, he was.
Oh Lord, great. Well,
That's
funny together.
some good stand-up material there.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's
like
so funny.
I miss Barry so much.
And of course, it immediately reminded both of us of the tape beyond tapes, the funny beyond funny at the correspondence roast,
right.
where Obama roasted Trump and caused the man to run for president.
Yeah, potentially.
Clearly.
It. Yeah, history is what it is. It was a pretty good opening line where he was like, "Thank you here, Vice President Biden, and Vice President." Oh wait, that was such a good line where he called Joe Vice President.
Well, and nobody knew what to think about it, and the funny thing was that they didn't get it, and the funny thing was he knew they wouldn't get it, and he looked at them deadpan and said, "That's a joke." And
was scripted.
So this was totally scripted, and in fact, you knew that it absolutely was not.
Yeah.
Absolutely was not. And he went over and gave Uncle Joe a hug.
Yeah,
He's
we'll
such
see what the fuck happens
Effortless speaker
in the future.
And he's so thoughtful. He's amazing to me.
Yeah, there are so few humans like that, and the fact that we were able to get one of them elected is super special, and the fact that it was the first black president is extra special. But yeah, talking to Michelle and whatnot, they are so not interested in ever doing that ever again.
Yeah, and
But
did you see the advertisements, the trailers for the Showtime series called First Ladies, or maybe it's HBO First Ladies?
Have not.
Where an incredible ensemble cast of women who are playing First Ladies. Oh my God! And the trailer, you got to see it. It's astounding. Miss Gerald Ford, what's her name? Peggy Ford? No, Betty Ford. Betty Ford by Michelle Pfeiffer. The woman from the X-Files playing Eleanor Roosevelt. What's her name?
Gillian Anderson.
Yes,
She played Margaret Thatcher in The Crown.
Yes. She's an incredible actress. And is it Davis?
Gina Davis?
No. Octavia Davis playing Michelle Obama.
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Okay, I've got the list here. Gillian Anderson is Eleanor Roosevelt. Kiefer Sutherland is Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Yes, in a transformation that is shocking.
I mean,
just shocking. Just shocking. I can't wait. And listen, man, as we speak, you recall in one of the earlier episodes when it was the fall, the mourning doves came and were out on the wire out here. What just landed out there is the first robin of spring.
Huh. Well, you know what else is happening as we speak? My parents are about to get on a plane in Charlotte and come here.
Oh man,
They are landing tomorrow morning.
That's a big deal.
So it's going to be exciting having the old parental units around.
Yeah, it's so good that when they come and see the kids and it's all family and it's.
Yeah, my kids are all like, "Why can't it be tomorrow when Grandma and Grandpa are here?"
When your kids say that, you just need to look at them and say this, say this, say this. Gotta keep those good vibrations are happening to you. Gotta keep those good vibrations are happening to you. Gotta keep those excitations happening to you. Hey, I saw Whiplash. J.K. Simmons, you've seen it?
I've seen it. Yeah, back when it was.
Oh my God, I've never seen it.
Oh man,
I've never seen it. I was crazy.
In fucking tense.
I was crazy. It was.
That actor learned to play the drums for that. He didn't know before.
Are you shitting me?
That's the story I heard. Yeah.
Well, what do you think J.K. Simmons knew about conducting jazz?
Sure, exactly. So.
I got an Academy Award for that.
Yeah.
Best actor.
But what a best. Yeah.
Best supporting actor.
Sometimes you get the award for being the biggest jerk. I mean, for acting the biggest jerk.
Oh man, it was bad. Talk about that language in cancel culture today.
Yeah,
oh my word.
You would get the podcasting award.
What else came to the news was what's his ass is retiring, the comedian Jim Carrey. He's
retiring.
Yes, so he says, or as I like to say, so he threatens. And you know what he said was interesting. He said, at the end of the day, the world has had enough of me.
Well, that's been true for a while.
He did. He came back, for the.
Jim Carrey says he's probably retiring from acting. I've had enough.
The cable guy came back for the Super Bowl commercial.
Did he?
In the best Super Bowl we've ever seen in our lifetime.
He lost so much of my respect for supporting his wife Jenny McCarthy on all the anti-vax bullshit that actually kills children. I can't get with that. If that's your stance, fuck off.
Who's this?
Jim Carrey.
Oh, he did? I didn't know that.
He's super anti-vax because his wife got, Jenny McCarthy, known as being a Playboy model and nothing more than that, was going on all the talk shows and Oprah and all that shit, talking about how vaccination is blah, 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 bad. And, of course, he's his wife. He's her husband. And, I don't know. That whole anyone participating in that movement, I think, is meh.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah. Fuck them.
So,
well, speaking of fucking them, Trump seems to be sizzling a bit. Low numbers of people at rallies, lack of interest in who he supports or doesn't support, and an increasing vocalization by potential opponents who are trying to out-Trump Trump in the case of DeSantis, the Florida governor, who is hard to think about this, but may be even a bigger asshole than Trump. Hard to, probably not, but he's trying to out-Trump
Seems
Trump.
impossible. So two things. That SNL cold open with Trump where I sent you, that it was Fox and Friends. I sent it to you.
You sent it to me.
It was Fox and Friends, and they were
voice ever.
And they were like, so those darn Democrats want to say that you were trying to, do a violent coup on January 6th. And he was like, yeah, violent coup, coulda, woulda, shoulda, that would have been great. Violent, back in the day, they used to just line people up and be like, pow, pow, pow. And then, you were done with all your enemies. It was so fucking good.
Well, what I like about the dudes, it's not only his voice, but his delivery. He looks somewhat like Trump. He looks like Trump may look in about 10 years. Actually.
I don't know who that is even.
I've seen little clips.
I suppose Alec Baldwin is in hiding now after his
he's
accidental murder.
Alec Baldwin killed a woman with a gun. Yeah. So I think we're not going to see much of him. Him and Will Smith are going to do a movie together in 2029. Is what the plan is, to make sure that they're beyond the arc of their the damage that they caused. So
fuck. What was the other thing I wanted to talk
about? I got to move on to the to the pastures of the external vicissitude.
Man, the grass is so sweet in the pastures of the external vicissitude.
Oh, man, you got it. You got
Some
it.
sweet grass, man.
Gotta keep those a good vibrations are happening with us. Gotta keep those good vibes. Now, what do I do to end this thing? I don't just shut it off anymore. I can't do an abrupt ending because I'm supposed to just let
I'll
it
press
record.
stop, and you let it sit there. Goodbye.
Goodbye, my friend.
All right, that does it for episode number 149. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/149. You can help support the show at patreon.com/happyhour. And if you give at the Gin Martinis level, you can watch actual video of our calls, which is exciting when Dennis has to pretend to kill someone from behind with a broken bottle. See you soon.